Sears Canada will soon be closing its doors for good. After more than 6 decades in business, today, a judge approved a request to shut down the company's remaining stores. As Jacqueline Hansen explains, that means 12,000 employees will soon be out of work.
The judge said that there was no viable alternative, and so he approved total liquidation of Sears, which means that the remaining 130 stores will soon close their doors for good, and thousands of employees will also soon lose their jobs.
I started in 1978 with that company, and everybody that I worked with were very loyal to Sears. We respected the company. They were a part of Canada. They were a part of the communities.
The lawyer who represents the employees says that this outcome is not what she wanted.
There is no doubt that this is taking a toll emotionally and psychologically and financially on the employees of Sears and their families. They have stood by the company, and this is an unfortunate and deeply regretful turn of events.
Sears tried to find a buyer who would keep the company going, and apparently very active discussions were still happening between some parties over the past few days, but the clock was ticking and the company continues to lose money.
There's no miracle left here. This is a management team that gave up. They gave up several months ago.
The liquidation sales, which will start as early as next week, aim to take advantage of the holiday shopping season so that Sears can try to pay its creditors as much as possible. But it's a historic day at this courthouse. Sears joining the list of retailers forced to call it quits in Canada. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
The judge has granted Sears Canada permission to close down and liquidate all stores which are still in operation. The company asked bankruptcy court for permission after the chance of finding a new owner fizzled out. CTV's Heather Wright is outside the court on University Avenue with the latest on this story. Heather.
Paul, Justice Glenn Haney made this decision just a short while ago. There are still a number of things that need to be sorted out as they move through this approvals process. I can tell you it was a packed courtroom on the 8th floor. There were lawyers for a number of the creditors that are seeking money from Sears once it goes through the liquidation process. There were lawyers also for the employees and for the retirees. Both of those lawyers spoke to the court this morning. They were expressing their concerns about the liquidation process. The lawyer for the retirees was talking about how the pension is underfunded, how there are concerns about people being able to access that pension throughout their retirement. And of course, the lawyer for the current employees was expressing the concerns of the people who still work there, those people, those 12,000 people who will be out of a job come the end of January. Now, what we do know so far about this approvals process is that Sears will begin liquidation sales on October 19th. It is expected that those liquidation sales will last between 10 and 14 weeks. Sears Canada will wind down all of its stores by January 22nd. The last day of sales at Sears Canada will be January 21st. Now, court has also asked for permission to be able to begin terminating employees throughout this liquidation process. We hadn't heard about that before. They will be asking to be able to let employees go, provided they give them 7 days notice. So now we are going to learn much more about what is going to happen throughout the next 10 to 14 weeks for Sears Canada. We will continue to follow this story throughout the afternoon, and of course we will have much more tonight on CTV News at 6. For now, I will send it back to you, Paul.
All right, thank you. Today, it is official. The courts have approved the liquidation of Sears Canada.
Thousands of jobs lost, a Canadian retail giant gone. So what does this mean for consumers? CTV's Heather Wright is live at the Scarborough Town Centre Sears. Heather.
Well, Zubeida, for one, consumers can expect discounts once the liquidation sales begin on October 19th. But there is still some uncertainty for consumers as well, especially those who might have Kenmore appliances or Sears furnaces inside their homes. It's still not clear what is going to happen with those warranties. It's another thing that Sears has to iron out as this liquidation process continues. It's official. In 100 days, Sears will disappear from the Canadian retail landscape.
It's hard. it's really hard.
Zubeida Maharaj and Blaise Lyle were both laid off by Sears earlier this year. They wanted to be in court today as a judge approved Sears' request to liquidate.
Sears has been in Canada and around for 65 years. So the support in much of the communities that are being affected, they too supported Sears. And they're being let down today as well.
All 200 Sears stores will close and 12,000 employees will lose their jobs as the company begins massive liquidation sales set to begin October 19th. The sales will run between 10 and 14 weeks. All stores will close by end of day on January 21st, and of course, all sales will be final. But there are still a number of issues that need to be sorted out. Sears hasn't said what will happen to warranties on things like appliances, furnaces, and roofs, or who will handle repairs for those products. And while gift cards will be honored throughout the liquidation process, retrieving any balance after stores close will likely require a claim, which may not be successful. Employees will not be given severance, but will join a long line of creditors, hoping to receive some sort of compensation once the liquidation process is over.
In order for the employees to realize on their claims, we need to have an estate. We need to have a liquidation process that will generate funds.
The pension is underfunded by $260 million, so retirees are moving forward with an effort to get their claim paid first. Meanwhile, employees like Lyle are starting from scratch.
I've worked for Sears for 39 years. Yeah. I've never applied to another company.
Yes.
Even when I was promoted within the company, I never had to have a resume ready.
Now 12,000 employees will be getting their resumes ready as Sears Canada gets set to close.
Now, a small window has been left open for Sears to continue. They do have until October 19th to find an investor or a buyer, and they could cancel the liquidation process and continue operating as stores. Now, they had been looking for that sort of help for a while, so it does seem unlikely that that will happen, and it seems likely that Sears will continue with this process, closing at the end of January. Reporting live in Scarborough, I'm Heather Wright. I'll send it back to you.